Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be back at DBIA doing a presentation for a project that I did when I was at Mass DOT. Very exciting, very innovative, very big challenge for us while we were there, and it's something that I think a lot of other states are looking at doing, and we had a lot of national recognition from Federal Highway and a number of agencies, so I'm very excited about giving you a little bit of an overview of what we did while I was there. So our project mission was a little bit simple. We had 14 bridges on Interstate 93 just north of Boston, which is about 4 or 5 miles outside of Boston, that were in a very serious state of disrepair that needed to be replaced very quickly. And we looking for an option, how to do it fast, how to get in and out. You know, the roadway itself has 200,000 vehicles per day that travel on it, so managing traffic was going to be something that was pretty significant for us. We were trying to minimize impacts to travelers and commuters, which again is a challenge when you have 200,000 cars a day, and that's not just Monday through Friday for a commuting period, that's also Saturdays and Sundays. People going in and out of town for sporting events or different things, so that was something that we had to look at. Our project goals were, we found that we had some significant deterioration in a lot of our structures on the interstate, that the bridges were all the same vintage in terms of years, same condition, same types of failures that were being exhibited in multiple locations. So our goal was to try to replace all those bridges all at the same time, get in, get out, stay out, have a 75-year design life, minimize as much as we could impacts to the commuters, and give a good project and a good product to the Commonwealth users. We looked at the whole area coming out of Boston, looked at the vintage of all the bridges, and found that a lot of them were built around the same time, using the same types of construction, had a similar load rating, had a similar rating for failures and different patching things. So we found that we had 7 northbound, 7 southbound that we needed to do very, very quickly, and we fixed our scope of work and we started our project. What we found is, as you can see the picture on the left, we had a very isolated failure on one of the bridges, and as we started chipping away the concrete to try to find some good concrete so that we could do a patch, 2 full lanes of traffic we had to take out for several days. This gridlocked traffic in and around Boston could take you 4 to 6 hours to get in and out of Boston because we had lanes closed for so long. So what we found was that delaying any more of the maintenance and the ultimate replacement of these bridges was going to result in this type of failure happening again over and over, and causing us problems with traffic management. So we came up with a plan that we looked at, again, with a number of different options. Precast modular deck panels is what we ended up using. We had CME, who was our designer, come up with the plan that was precast deck panels on steel stringers, all fabricated off-site and brought in and put into place basically like Legos. We did this 14 bridges over 10 weekends in the summer. Each weekend there was a 55-hour design window, construction window. So on a Friday night we would close the local roadway and we would close half of the interstate. We would bring in a truck, a movable barrier, and put half the capacity on the other barrel of 93 that was not being closed. So from Friday night until Sunday morning, they had to demolish the bridge and put a new bridge back in place using the precast deck panels. So from when we started the procurement until we received substantial completion was just about 1 year. The contract had an disincentive clause in it for the contractor. Again, he had 55 hours every weekend to build an entire structure. Some weekends he had to build 2 structures. If he was late on an opening for Monday by 5 a.m., the penalty started $450,000 for the first 15 minutes that he was late on a Monday morning. And then they went in every 15-minute intervals up to $1.15 million if he was late by 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Big incentive to not be late. If he was done by Labor Day weekend, which was our goal, and he was not late on any of the weekends, his incentive payment was $6.9 million. That was part of the overall funding from the Federal Highway Administration. They have language in their legislation that allows us to pay incentive, disincentive clauses. We have to go through our local inspector general and justify how much money that incentive would be. And we base it on roadway user costs. So, how much is it going to cost the user to, be in delay every day, and how much would that benefit the user if the project was done that much quicker. So there's a calculation that's done based on the volume and the roadway user costs, and we come up with a figure that says, okay, well, if the user is caught in traffic for 2 hours, it's going to cost X. So we come up with the numbers, and that's the calculation, and then the Federal Highway Administration actually approves that, and it becomes part of the funding for the project. Local access was a significant issue, and emergency access was obviously a significant issue as we were closing the local roads. If you had a fire station that was, maybe 0.2 of a mile from, your interchange and you were closing it, now your call time might be increased by, 10 or 12 minutes if they have to run through a significant detour. We staged fire trucks, at either end of the local road that we were closing, just to be sure that, we had emergency access covered at all times. We did a lot of briefings in advance. We went out to a lot of different groups, agencies, people who we thought would be heavily affected by the project. We did a lot of news coverage. We did Twitter, Flickr, YouTube. We did as much social media as we could, just because that's where people are kind of getting their information at this point. We had a blog, a very interactive website that you can go on every week and find out what was going to be happening for the upcoming weekend. So, we spent a lot of time making sure that we were advising people of where our work was going to be and what alternate routes were going to be available, so that if they needed an option to drive someplace else to get where they were going, maybe they wouldn't take their regular route, they would take someplace else. Might be a little bit longer in mileage, but it was going to be better for them in terms of time. So we used as many of the public media outlets as we could. Again, we did a lot of news coverage. We did a lot of newspaper stuff. The traditional stuff that people look at. But we also tried to use things that people are more accustomed to now. Maybe the Twitter, the Flickr, and the YouTube. This was the first project that DOT did that used an intelligent smart work zone system. We had all kinds of 50+ devices monitoring speeds, traffic conditions. We had temporary cameras. We were able to monitor everything that was going on in and around the project, not just the project location, not just the limits of work, but also in downtown Boston, in the neighboring communities. And we had a number of police details and traffic engineers that were able to go out to intersections that were maybe having a little bit more congestion than we thought, and do retiming of signals, change detour routes, send people into other areas, close some roads that maybe we're looking at people doing a lot of diversions. We're trying to minimize that as much as possible through neighborhoods, and we did a good job with that. Just kind of getting people to take the major detour route that we had planned for. Our communications plan was very significant too. I myself did 65 to 70 briefings to different groups, anybody that we could get a message out to, trying to give people the best information about the project and how to get in and around the area. We don't want people to avoid the area, but if you're going through Boston and you're going to Cape Cod, you probably don't need to go 93. You might take an alternate route. Might take you 10 miles longer, but chances are it's going to save you an hour or two, because on Saturdays our traffic did get pretty bad. So if you didn't have to be there, we would try and give people the best opportunities to understand how to get to where they were going the best way. The precast panels, Structal did all the steel and then sent all the steel to Jersey Precast, who did the fabrication of the panels themselves in their shop. They were great. We had all the panels were always on site, up in a yard, maybe 10 miles away from the project, a few days before the actual work was taking place. A couple times we had some glitches, and one of the lessons learned was maybe you build in a little bit more time to have the panels delivered, so that you're not waiting on 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon and you're like, okay, I'm missing 3 panels. I really can't demolish a bridge unless I have them all here. We actually built a whole bridge, on these timbers just to see how long it was going to take. You know, originally the schedule had about an hour to do a pick for each panel, and then once we did the dry run, we found that we could cut that time down by about 20-25 minutes. And that saved us a lot of time, and it allowed the contractor to be sure that he was going to be open by 5 a.m. every Monday. Again, every weekend, the state police had an incident action plan, which is based on a homeland security model. So they had this action plan, whether it was, you know, hazardous materials, how to get people to a hospital. You know, Mass General is very, very close to this project location. You know, where we could land med flights if we had to. All part of this plan, again, that the state police did for every single weekend. We also had a rapid clearance preparation plan, which worked out well because, you know, once we had reduced the capacity on 93 and we had 2 lanes and 2 lanes with the zipper barrier, trying to clear an incident if a car broke down or if there was an accident is significant because now you're further reducing your capacity and trying to get tow trucks in and out of the area. We had 2 tow trucks staged, 1 in each crossover location, and then we had this vehicle here for the larger, like, tractor-trailer type of incident. That was a collective group of people from the DOT who really had thought about, you know, different things that could or would go wrong, you know, in terms of contingency plans. But, you know, rapid clearance is something that we always looked at at DOT as something that, you know, if you have an accident, you know, it causes a lot of traffic jams. So if we had an accident in a crossover where we had the capacity reduced to such a great scale, we even needed to more get that clearance moved, you know, as effectively as we could. So it was a great group of people that, you know, put all their minds together and said, these are the things that we need to think about, these are the things we need to focus on, and this is the stuff that is going to make or break this project. And it really was. I mean, we tried to plan for as much as we could, and I think we did the best we could. Can't plan for everything, but we were there and we were able to at least react to, you know, anything that came our way, you know, during those 10 weekends. So every Friday night we would leave the yard. We called it the Parade of Sail, again up about 10 miles away from the project. All of the panels were on steerable dollies, and we would go down 93. We would leave the yard going down 93, and, you know, each panel was numbered. So the trucks went in an orderly fashion. They got to the work site and they stacked in a location where they were going to be picked from, so that the first truck that was there was the first panel that would be picked. This was a big challenge, you know, when we embarked on this and we had originally given our schedule. You know, people, when we went out and talked to them, were like, oh, yeah, no, you're not going to do that. Like, this is going to be like a disaster. Yeah. So it was more of like just, okay, well, we really can do this and it's going to be great, and, you know, we can figure it out and we'll work through all the problems that we encounter, and we'll figure it out as we go along. We'll plan for as best as we can for every contingency that we think that we might encounter, but you know what? We'll figure it out. So it was a great challenge, and it was a good use of all the stuff that I had done for the past 20 years at DOT, kind of bringing it all together and making one great project that, you know, people really had a lot of hesitations about, but we thought it was going to be fine and we could do it, and we did it, and it worked out fantastic for us. Our first weekend, we opened the local road at 6 p.m., which was on a Sunday night, which was really, really early, and it was fantastic. I was down doing the final prep, getting the road swept up, ready to open, and a gentleman came over and said, excuse me, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He says, I went to work Saturday, and I was pretty sure that there's no bridge there. And now it's Sunday, and the bridge, when did you build the bridge? I said, well, we built it Saturday and Sunday. And he's like, okay. And he just kind of turned around and walked away like he didn't know if he saw what he saw, but he was pretty sure that he saw that there was no bridge. And now it's back. He goes, well, when are they going to drive on it? I'm like, a couple hours. He goes, very good.